All right. So this video is a bit quick. There were two other videos before that were much longer, but I think it kind of like illustrates the point. If you're clear about this, then I don't think you need these the other videos. Let's. Okay, so induction, abduction. Let's look at Cartesian skepticism. Cartesian skepticism is an example. We looked at it here. Is an example of epistemology in philosophy. And okay, is the world, my experience, really what I think it is? What is true? How can we find the truth? How do I know I'm right or I'm wrong? Can I ever be certain of anything? That is not philosophy that is practiced through observation. This is philosophy that completely takes place inside the head of the philosopher. And why is it important? Because that basically through reasoning we can find the essence of things. So it's different from, for example, what Aristotle did. It's different from I don't think that was caused by steak. Maybe a peanut got stuck in the wrong pipe.
Okay.
Okay. Did we already see Descartes, maybe? We already saw Descartes, no?
Which one?
Descartes.
Yeah.
We saw it, right? Let's skip it.
Crash Course Philosophy is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace. Share your passion with the world. A film for your philosophical consideration.
So the Matrix. There was a movie about the Matrix, about reality and what is real, what is not real. Did we discuss that, Takai-san? Were you there?
On which one?
René Descartes. René Descartes argued, "I think, therefore I am."
I
No,
didn't.
he didn't. No, he didn't. We did.
Okay. Now maybe then this is a very interesting video. It's not too long. It is a basically what Descartes was questioning is basically what I think every person sometimes questions. Okay, is what I observe around me, does that really exist, and does it exist objectively, or is it very subjective? Like, for example, Uno-san's shirt is red, or it has a Mickey Mouse on it, right? We all agree that it has a Mickey Mouse on it, but is the Mickey Mouse that I see, is that the same Mickey Mouse as you see, or are we only agreeing that it is Mickey Mouse because through definition, but maybe the Mickey Mouse that you are seeing is a completely different shape and form than the one that I'm observing? So is it that we cannot say that we necessarily see the same thing? Now that can be with a lot of things that we can question a lot. Okay, what is real? What is the reality? Maybe you remember Plato's cave. With the prisoners who were born inside of a cave and never saw anything but the wall of the cave, and on the wall they saw shadows, and they believed that the shadows were the reality because they simply never were outside of the cave. Uno-san always mentions the frogs in the well when he's talking about Japanese culture.
What is this?
When we're talking, for example, about Nikkei News and
You mean frog in the well?
Frog in the well. So basically, a frog in the well believes that the world is inside the well. But the reality could be that there is a very big world outside the well. We simply are not aware of it. So Descartes wanted to know what things we can be really certain of. What things do we know as a fact? And once we know that, he wanted to rebuild the world based on what we are certain of. What other things can we be certain of? So from that certainty, you could deduce other certainties. So he asked himself the fundamental question: what do we know for sure? Okay.
Yeah, you got to be questioned if you're crazy sometimes.
Right.
This is what was the questions in secondary school. I just asked my friend, the red color I saw is the same color you saw saying red.
Right.
So I was asking you crazy.
No, but yeah, so these are kind of questions that you can think about that and really be obsessed about it. You can think, well, we don't know, but let's be happy and have an ice cream or something. Yeah. So philosophers, they make their job out of actually thinking about these kind of questions, and thereby deriving what is real and what is not. All right, Descartes, French philosopher.
Crash Course Philosophy is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace. Share your passion with the world. A film for your philosophical consideration. The Matrix. You gotta remember the humans floating around in the vats of KY jelly, tubes and wires keeping them alive, stimulating their brains to make them believe that they were experiencing the real world, the world we all think we know. Well, almost 20-year-old spoiler alert here, some of them come out and find that the real world was a desolate wasteland and the lives everyone thought they were living were just fabrications fed into their brains. A select few were rescued from the illusion, but some of them were so unhappy in the real world that they chose to return to the illusion. But Neo, and the others who chose to stay and fight, were the philosophical heroes of the movie, choosing truth at the cost of comfort and happiness. After watching The Matrix, you might have found yourself wondering, could this be true? Could we possibly be stuck in a dream world of someone else's making with no way to tell that our reality isn't real at all? If so, you are not the first person to have wondered about these things. In fact, the original Neo, the guy who really went into battle against the matrix of illusion in order to defend the truth, he was a 17th century mathematician named René. Last time we talked about Plato and his belief that the ordinary reality of the material world is only a shadowy approximation of ultimate reality. Socrates, meanwhile, who was widely believed to be the wisest man in Athens, fretted about how little he knew. Philosophers spend a lot of time obsessing about knowledge, wishing they knew more, and worrying that they're wrong about what they think they know. They even, if you remember from the first episode, have a fancy name for the study of knowledge: epistemology. The philosopher who gets the gold star for taking this how do I know what I know paranoia to astonishing levels is the early modern philosopher, scientist, and mathematician René Descartes. When you watch The Matrix, you should congratulate the Wachowskis for giving us such a great sci-fi adventure story, but you should also remember that the archetype of the story actually has its roots all the way back in the writings of Descartes in the early 1600s. For a story like The Matrix to get off the ground, the audience has to be willing to entertain some level of skepticism, and a skeptic is someone who questions whether it's possible to know anything with certainty. And Descartes was the Mac Daddy of all skeptics. He was so skeptical we named a form of skepticism after him, Cartesian skepticism. Why was Descartes so skeptical? Well, he realized that many of the beliefs he used to hold were actually false. We all go through this. It's part of what we call growing up, learning those horrible truths about Santa and the Tooth Fairy. That you can't actually buy everything you want and need for just $100. That your parents don't really have all the answers. But realizing that he used to believe things that were false really got Descartes to thinking, because when he believed those things, he didn't realize realized they were false. So what if some of the things he still believed were also false and he just hadn't realized it yet? How could he know that his beliefs were true? Well, after a bit of a freak out, Descartes realized that the only way to make sure he wasn't holding any false beliefs was to disbelieve everything, at least temporarily. He offered this as an analogy. Imagine you have a basket of apples, and you're concerned that some of the apples might be rotten. Since the rot could spread and ruin the fresh apples, the only way to make sure there's no rot in the basket is to dump out all the fruit, inspect each apple in turn, and return only the fresh apples to the basket. Knowing that just like rotten fruit, a rotten idea can spread and infect all the ideas around it, Descartes upended the apple basket of his beliefs and decided to start from scratch. If he examined each possible belief carefully and only accepted those about which there could be no doubt, then he'd know he was only believing true things. So Descartes began the arduous task of examining his beliefs one by one. He started with empirical beliefs, things we come to know directly through the use of our senses. And many of us think that our senses are the most reliable source of information. If I can see it, hear it, touch it, taste it, smell it, I must know it, right? Not so much. Descartes pointed out that our senses fail us all the time. You rush to catch up to a friend and realize as she turns around that your eyes played some tricks on you and you've just tapped on the shoulder of a perfect stranger. Food tastes wrong when you're sick. Drink too much and you feel like the room is spinning. Water that's room temperature feels hot when you come inside after playing in the snow. The list goes on. You can probably think of countless times where your senses gave you faulty information. And once you realize that, how can you ever trust your senses again? And for Descartes, disbeliever of everything, it got worse. Have you ever had a dream so vivid you thought you were awake? You probably had that dream when you were dreaming, or you dreamed that you woke up from a dream, but in fact were still in the dream. Not everyone has had these experiences, but many of us have, and given that we don't always know that we're dreaming while it's happening, how do we know we're not dreaming right now? Maybe you just think you're watching Crash Course, but in fact you're cozied up in bed, dreaming about me. Which, hey, like, who could blame you? But really, when you think about it, can you be sure that it's not the case? I might be thinking, okay, sure, I probably deceive myself from time to time without knowing I'm doing it, but dreams end, and when I wake up, I realized that what I thought I was experiencing was all in my head. And the same is true for when my senses let me down. Those are just temporary instances isolated to a particular situation. As soon as the situation changes, I can realize that my experience was false. This quality, the ability to check in with yourself and figure out that you're experiencing a deception, describes what Descartes called local doubts. Those are doubts about a particular sense experience or some other occurrence at a particular point in time. Step out of that point and you can check to determine if you've been deceived. But what if everything is a deception? What if everyone is experiencing the same false reality from birth until death? What if nothing is as it seems, just like in the Matrix? This type of doubt, the kind you can't step out of and thus can't check, is called global doubt, and it's the subject of this week's Flash Philosophy. Let's go to the thought bubble. Philosopher Bertrand Russell illustrated the concept of global doubt with this troubling thought. What if the universe was created just 5 minutes ago? In this scenario, known as the 5-minute hypothesis, the creator of the universe could have designed many elements of the world to make them appear pre-worn, so as to seem old. From dinosaur bones fashioned by the creator and planted for us to find, to that scar on your knee put there by the creator along with the preloaded false memory of how you got it. It seems crazy, but there's no way to prove that it isn't the case. The question for Russell was, does it matter? Descartes thought it did, but as a good Catholic, he couldn't fathom a world in which God would plant globally false beliefs in all of our minds. So instead, he posited the existence of an evil genius whose purpose in life was to deceive us, and who was clever enough to do it. Descartes didn't actually think such a being was likely to exist, but he realized there was no way to rule out his existence, and as long as the evil genius was possible, he worried that we were all stuck. Stuck in a radical skepticism in which we really can't trust any of our beliefs. Everything we believe, every sense experience, every thought, they could all have been put in our minds by the evil genius who created an illusory world so seamless we'd have no way of detecting the illusion, just like the machines created for the characters in the Matrix. Descartes was at the point of despair. But then he realized something. He had cause to doubt everything. Everything except the fact that he was doubting. He knew he was doubting. He could be sure of that. And if he was doubting, then he must exist, at least as a thinking thing. After all, a doubt is a thought, and if there is a thought, there must be a thinker having those thoughts. So Descartes decided that he couldn't know that he had a body. What he believed to be his body could have been part of the evil genius's deception, but he must have a mind, or he couldn't be having these thoughts. This was Descartes' aha moment. In his book, Meditations on First Philosophy, he declared, "Cogito ergo sum." I think, therefore I am. It's one of the most famous realizations in philosophy. I cannot doubt my own existence. I can doubt everything else, but I can't doubt that I am, bare minimum, a mind having thoughts. This was Descartes' foundational belief, the first belief he put back in his apple basket. And from there, he figured he could build back up to more certain beliefs. Once he was certain that he was a thinking thing, he began examining his thoughts. And one of his most clear thoughts, what he called a clear and distinct idea, was that God exists. He gave an argument for this, which we're going to examine in a later episode. But for now, take my word for it, it's got some problems. And from there, he considered his beliefs about the physical world and concluded that it, too, actually exists. Ultimately, he determined God wouldn't allow him to have clear and distinct ideas that were false without some way to detect his own error. So he concluded the evil genius is not actually fabricating lies that consume our every waking moment. Descartes managed to reason from Coquito all the way back up to having basically all the beliefs he started with back in his apple basket, which is the story of how René Descartes, with the power of skepticism, defeated the threat of the evil genius. Much like how Neo ultimately short-circuited the Matrix, though considerably less impressive to watch, I imagine. He found certainty through his discovery of the one belief that he simply couldn't doubt, his own existence as a thinking thing. But there is a lot of debate among philosophers as to whether Descartes actually manages to justifiably believe anything other than that he exists as a thinking thing. And we'll talk more about that next time. This episode of Crash Course Philosophy is made possible by Squarespace. Squarespace is a way to create a website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas.
わかった？
はい、皆さんこんにちは、雲野です。今日はですね、雲野塾の研修のプログラムをご紹介したいと思います。で、こういうふうなホームページありますけれども、ぜひですね、一度中身をご覧になっていただきたいと思います。今日はブーキューブさんのスタジオに来て、この収録をしておりますので、中身はこういうふうになってて、今最近ホットなね、グローバルリーダーの定義など書いてあります。で、特に経団連が作成しました留学すれば英語ができて専門性を持つというだけではですね、グローバルリーダーになれないとここに書いてありますようにですね、仕事ができる、専門性を持つ、英語ができるだけじゃなくてですね、私どもの塾ではリベラルアーツということと、それからもう一つは孫子の兵法、さらにはですね、日本の歴史というものを合わせて教えることによって皆さんが海外の欧米の方々と、もしくは華僑圏の方々と正々堂々と渡り合えるような人物を育成しようというふうなことを考えています。ここに次のスライドが出ておりますけれども、ここに書いてありますのはですね、さらに、私どもの雲野塾の中身につきましてはですね、欧米の資料しか使っておりません。また実際に雲野塾は英語でやっておりますので、英語の講師がこう話しておりますけど、学習はですね、日本の歴史をまだ教えてますので、学習の午後はですね、日本のプログラムをしております。で、以前はこれ有料だったので、今はですね、実際に会場費も取っていただいておりませんで、毎回5000円ということで、朝9時から午後5時までやっておりますので、ぜひ皆さんですね、ご検討の上ご参加いただければと。英語のできない方もですね、学習の午後こういうふうな研修をしておりますので、ぜひご参加いただければというふうに思っておりますので、よろしくお願いします。で、ここにさらにですね、グループ討議とか実務の勘どころを教えると書いてありますけど、実際には私が10年ほどですね、欧米の新聞とか雑誌等をですね、集めてきた、もともと英語のベースでございますので、そうしたものをですね、50セッションのテーマに分けて資料作成しております。そういうことで、世界のオペレーション、もしくはカントリーリスクも含めてですね、しかも世界のトップの方々に対してもいろいろな分析とか洞察をしてですね、議論をしております。そういったことも含めてですね、今後ともよろしくお願いしたいと思います。以上で私の挨拶を終えますが、今回のこのビデオの収録にあたってはですね、V キューブさんのスタジオをお借りしてですね、お時間を頂戴して、このビデオを作成させていただきました。よろしくお願いします。どうもありがとうございました。